Thank you, Teacher Ming. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to some of you around the world. Welcome to our Youth Camp on Zoom, session number 3. And I'm honored and excited to share the second part of my teaching. And thank you again for all your homework. And I'll show some examples. And it's so inspiring and encouraging to read. So please put your new grade and your state after your name so that we have an idea. And then feel free to join and speak up. If you type in chat, maybe Teacher Ming can help me to read those. And if you would speak up and volunteer, I'll be asking some help to read. Go ahead and open up your mic. And when you do, and say your name, and then go ahead and help me to read. So today we continue with habit number 1, be proactive. And you remember the different logistics that we have Teacher Yan, very helpful every week. She just gets us so organized. So she sends out the email and reminders. So it's a very much an honor code, trusting you to take your own attendance and track your own homework. And again, we thank Teacher Ming for his incredible generosity. You can earn up to $100. Really not for your own use. Hopefully you use it for other good, as other youth have done in the past, put into service projects. So imagine we have 230 some people registered so far. And if everybody get $100 reward for their participation, Teacher Ming is going to invest $23,000 in your life, which is incredible generosity. So we are very thankful for Teacher Ming's generous time, talent, and treasure investment in each one of you. So my name is Elaine. I had already shared my story last week, really a lot of God stories and miracles, which is true for every one of you. God does not play favoritism. God is very fair, not like human. We tend to have some favors, but God is fair. So God bless me as much as he bless you and bless all the characters in the Bible. So I'm praying for each one of you as you go through the youth camp on Zoom. You witness how God blessed Teacher Ming, Teacher Yan, and my own story, and each one of you, that you would journey the same way and experience all these God stories in your life. So I am going to share more about leadership. So I have written 4 books so far, and there's an English one going on the art of AQ leadership that I told you about. So I'll include some of those stories as we learn about the 7 habits of highly effective teens. So from the many homework that you have sent to us, I picked a few examples, and I have to say, among this 200 some youth, the younger students, those entering into 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade are setting a good example. They are sending very good homework, and it doesn't have to be long. So here's an example that they are finding the importance of what Teacher Ming said, that effective, doing the right thing, and efficient, doing the right way, are both important to lead to good life. And you all recognize how important God is to help us to live a quote unquote successful life. And remember, Teacher Ming's and my definition of success is using God's gifts for you faithfully and all the resources to honor God and to bless people. So it's not the definition of how much money you make and how high of a ranking or good school. Those are not bad. Those are all neutral, are blessings. More important is to really using the gifts and the resources God has given you, and that you use it to glorify God and to bless other people in the society and those around you. And then this student said, and I'm so impressed, he's going to 6th grade. And I actually know his parents, and I'm actually going to meet them for dinner next Tuesday. They learn, and he wrote down all these 8 holistic relationships. And that's the art of AQ leadership. And the 4 different relationships that I'm now writing the English book. We finished 90% of the book. and pray for the publishing next year. So this student wrote all the 8 aspects of the 8Q leadership: relationship with God, relationship with yourself, with people, and with projects. So thank you for paying such good attention. Another student from Michigan going to 8th grade talks so much about the importance of God guiding our life. So you heard stories from Teacher Ming and from me. You're exactly right. And this student is so perceptive. They saying, seeing my life story. And they're absolutely right. I could not imagine how God was going to guide me, and seeing the current life and the future that God has for me. And he's absolutely right. So same way for you. You could not see your future, and yet God does. And you could not imagine what I was struggling with. A poor family, couldn't afford elementary school tuition. And yet God is in control. He's got your best interest at heart. He's got your future in his hands. So as I was going through my life, no idea what's going to happen. And yet what we need to do is every step, hang on to God, no matter what, and walk with him step by step and seeking him. And then this student also said God has great power to change our lives, because they see how God changed me from a troublemaker to a peacemaker when I became a Christian, and how God guided my 33 years in AT&T. And that is so true. And then they said that it's encouraging for them because they now know how God can also change them to be more like Jesus. Amen. And this is a 7th grader going to 8th grade. What an encouragement. And then the student said, during hard times, God is still watching over me, because he sees how God helped me through my humble beginnings, starting at kind of a losing point, and yet he really sees God is looking out for me. And in the same way, God is looking out for you. So they are very thankful for my testimony. Thank you. There are many of you who send wonderful and encouragement messages. Thank you. Another student from Massachusetts, they're going to 9th grade in September. And their 3 learning is very clear and concise statement. I'm so proud of them. I learned something from them. They said, proactive parents naturally lead to proactive children. Yes, exactly. Parents are there to set role model and example. Thank you. They said leadership means being able to influence others. That's right. Leadership, if you boil down to one word, it's influence. And then third, humility isn't putting yourself down. It's being able to accept compliment and give credit to others. I'm so proud of the student. They understood what we share and they summarize it in a very concise way. So the student talked about my career in AT&T, many changes. That's exactly right. And my whole life, starting from a humble beginning. And that was the slide I showed last time. Another set of example, a student from New Jersey, my home state, in going into 7th grade. They said, I should be humble and do things for God in humility. That's right. People like to work with people who are humble. And we had the right definition of humble, not to put yourself down, but to really think less self-centered of yourself. We must also glorify and respect him for helping us understand and follow God. Next, God will help us throughout their life and help you overcome your struggles. He wishes for people to spread the gospel and follow him to continue this ongoing cycle. Exactly. So that more people and everyone get to hear the gospel. Third, it sometimes takes years to finally know what God wants us to do. That's right. And it's not easy. And it's a journey. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, a step by step. And then how he has planned our future. Don't be arrogant, selfish, and demanding, like how I was. And many of you caught that. Even when I was a Christian, I still struggle with being arrogant, selfish, and demanding. That's how day by day we learn to obey and trust and obey God. And then learn to be a good servant of God and be God-centered. Thank you. Good summary from New Jersey. So this is the slide I showed last week, how I went through the 5P in my life. And it's a journey, it's a marathon. Just like how you can think about your life in the past, 10 years, 15 years, you're young, and then how God is going to guide you every step. In the same way, you would come up with reflection and a summary of what your life may be like. If you're not speaking, you can put on mute. If you want to speak up, you could, so we can minimize the noise. And then another student talks about, and this is going to be an 8th grade, how being self-centered and selfish will not get you anywhere in life. You're exactly right. And then believing in Christ and building your relationship with God is a way of becoming humble. That's right, because Jesus is the ultimate example. He is so humble. He is a good example of, the best example of servant leader. He humbled himself so much that he left the throne in heaven to come to be among us. So such great love. Another student from Georgia entering 10th grade, they said, living in intent to please God. That is great. Every day we wake up, how can I please God? How can I rejoice in God's blessings and presence? And then the students say, shine Jesus' light to others through you. And you know how much I love the word shine. Many of my teaching use the word shine, because we want to always shine the light of God through our life to bless others. And this is the slide I showed last week, how my coworker, who happens to be a Christian, in my retirement wrote this card for me, that I truly take Jesus to work with you and allow his light to shine through you. So I pray for each one of us as I respond to every one of the email, to your homework, that I pray for you to take Jesus with you wherever you go and really shine for him. So very good example. So last page of example from last week's homework. There are a lot more than this, but I'm just picking a few examples. This is another one from my home state in New Jersey, going to 8th grade. They say how God will help you in many ways. For example, he helped you to be a Christian. You learn not to focus on yourself as much, but learning how to help others. This is how they heard my story from last week. And you learn not to be self-centered and focus all on your own, but instead you learn to focus on what's happening around you. You pay very good attention and you summarize how God has helped me. And in the same way, God's going to help you. And then the second point, learn to be proactive. You explain how being proactive help you in your education and also help you in your career. Exactly right. And we're going to dive in more today, how to be proactive. And then good leadership. You explain how you should influence others so you can all work and reach for the same goal as a team. Reach the same goal as a team. And the next student, they are actually siblings. There are quite a few of you who are siblings. They are coming also from New Jersey, of course, going to be 10th grade. So they are in a camp for 3 weeks, and yet they are still emailing the homework and they are watching the replay. So proud of you. So they learn how faith in God will lead to a meaningful life. And leadership is about how to influence people and bring the best of the people to achieve the common goal. That's exactly the definition that we talked about last week.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then the final example, someone from California going to be 10th grade. They said how important it is to have ongoing self-improvement. It's a long process. It's a marathon. It's not just a sprint. So it's a process that we get better and better every day. And that they also learn how to rely on God as the most important thing as a leader. That's exactly right. So this is a definition. So can I have someone reading this definition for us to remind us the leadership, what it means? So go ahead and open your mic and tell us your name and go ahead and read this definition.
My name is
No.
John, and influencing others to be their best and accomplish a shared vision.
Thank
Yeah.
you, John.
Yeah.
From Texas. That's exactly right. So many of you share similar idea in the homework that it's about influencing, not controlling, commanding, or bossing people, but influencing. And the idea is to help them to be their best, to live out their full potential. And then together we can align and accomplish a shared vision for the team. So those are your homework. And this is the book table of content that I'm writing, the
Hey,
4 different
teacher there.
relationship and the
Yeah.
8 quotient. Yeah, please.
Let
Teacher
me
me.
make some comment here for
Please.
all the
Yes.
students, okay, attending like today, and all the students who respond with the homework. I tell you, God had chosen you. God had chosen you to be a great person in the future, because not many youth can have this kind of mature thinking. And in the Bible, you remember the Luke, it say that you spread the seed, sometimes spread along the street, you put on the rock. But the most important part, the third, is the one with honest and a noble heart. So I think the key for all of you here, especially for those responsible with very mature thoughts, is you have a noble heart. You actually are seeking the noble things. And you keep trying to improve yourself for noble behavior and noble achievement. And I think that's very important part for the motivation for now and for the future. I'm really happy you're so blessed by God. Thank you.
Thank you, Teacher Ming, for the encouragement. So keep up the good work, everyone. For those who didn't send in, never too late. For the last 2 sessions learning, you still can send in your reflection. I may not respond to those. For all those who sent before this class, I have responded, or teacher Yan has responded. And then the new week, we have some new exciting opportunity for you to work on some tools. So as a leader, and the purpose of this youth camp on Zoom, Teacher Ming want all of you be part of this future leadership, that he want to build future leaders with godly life and effective habits. That's why we're using this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teen. So, and Teacher Ming always said, we want to use the Bible, which is like a guide to our life. It's a user's manual. And do you know what BIBLE stand for? Many of you know that I love making acrostic, and I did not make this one up. Anyone knows what BIBLE stand for? Because that's our user manual to guide us to be a future leader or even a current leader that you are. Anyone knows? And this is the Bible that Teacher Ming used in his first session. Here we go. Basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Good.
I did not come up with this, but it's so true. The Bible is our guide. As much as we have received good education, Teacher Ming and I have very good education. We receive many good training and executive training, and yet nothing is as good, as comprehensive, as thoughtful, as accurate, and as true as the Bible. So the Bible is the basic instructions before leaving Earth. Do you like that, Teacher Ming?
Yeah, very good. I can remember that.
No, but it's not hard, right? That one is easy. Good. So as we continue on this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, I enjoyed reading it. I've read the adult version, and now we're doing the teenager version. In our first habit is proactive. And you know what? I started reading this book. Let me tell you a little bit of history. Teacher Ming may not even know. When I was a young engineer in 1990, my company used this book, the adult version, to teach us this course called Principle-Centered Leadership. I was intrigued. I was so young, in my 20s, back in the day. And that was the first exposure for me to learn about leadership. I was so fascinated. So my company chose to use this name, Principle-Centered Leadership. That is so true. And we're going to talk more about the principles. And of course, all principles are well written and taught in the Bible. And you may or may not know this author, Sean Covey, and his father, Stephen Covey, do read the Bible, and yet, unfortunately, they are Mormon. So we'll be very careful that they believe in a cult. They do use most of the Bible, but they also have the Book of Mormon. So we want to be very careful. Good news is their principles are quite aligned to the Bible. And then my leadership training continues in my company, and the company also sent me to Cornell, back to my school, for a whole month of leadership training in 1995. And then 2 years later, sent me to UPenn, Wharton Business School. All these take thousands and thousands of dollars. And these takes a lot of selection from the 280,000 employee, how I was proactive, talking to my leadership, my boss, about my interest, and they see my qualities and my teachable heart, and they gave me the opportunity to attend these very expensive executive education. Then 2 years later, again, sent me to Columbia Business School. And then entering into year 2000, my company has more executive coaching, and every year we launch a new leadership program called Leading with Distinction. And one of the year, we also learned The Speed of Trust, which is another Covey book, another son of Stephen Covey, who wrote The Speed of Trust. So I've learned quite a bit of principles, how to be a good leader. So the reason my company used principle-centered leadership for this book that they taught us back in the 90s was that we know principles would not fail. Definitely, we want to refer to biblical principles, and they're the truth. And it takes faith to live out the principles and by the principles, as you heard from us in the last few sessions. And then some examples of principles. If you're thinking of any, please speak up. Here are some that are listed, such as honesty, integrity, serving others, loving others, hard work, respect, gratitude, moderation, fair, loyal, responsibility. These are some good examples of principles. So today, I introduce a tool for you, and it's going to be part of your homework this week. And it's a tool that is going to last you for the rest of your life. My adult students all really enjoy using this tool. And the reason I'm sharing this tool, because principle is one of the 5 P. So this tool is called the 5 P tool. Help us to discover who you are, help you to develop your skills, your potential, and then help you to deliver and live out this 5 P. So I'll take a few minutes to explain this tool, and I'll give you some example through email so that you can come up with your own 5 P for your next school year. And it's going to be very exciting because you're going to map out what your next school year going to look like in terms of your purpose. What purpose do you want to accomplish in your new school year? What is that end goal by the end of the next school year? What is the vision that you want to accomplish? I'll show you example later. You get more specific. And then we just talked about principle. Very important. What principle is going to guide you this next school year? How are you going to study? How are you going to build relationship with your friends, with your family? And then the 3rd P is your passion. What is that you love so much? Even when you don't get paid, you still want to do it. What is your passion? And these first 3 P are your internal soul searching. And then the 4th P is when you interact with the external world. What people relationship would you build? How would you influence those relationships? And remember, leadership is influence. And then finally, the peak of this pyramid is performance. At the end of this school year, what kind of performance do you want to achieve? What mission would you consider to be accomplished? So your mission definitely would align to your vision, and your performance will be very specific, aligned to your purpose. And that would be the peak of the pyramid. So that gives you the vision, your influence, and these P, and you'll be part of the VIP team. So this is the 5 questions to answer for this 5P, including the principle. And that's what the principle-centered leadership in this book would guide us. So here are the more detailed definition of each of the P. I'll include this in the email to send you when Teacher Yan sent out this week's homework. So you see the purpose are things that really give you the foundation, encourage you, and energize you. It's something that would drive you and give you power toward that end vision that you want to accomplish by the end of this year. For example, what school subject that you want to do well in, or what quality of your leadership you want to grow in. And then principle, what is your value, choices, decisions that would use your wisdom to make decisions. So whether it's from your culture, from your family upbringing, or from the Bible, what are those principles? And then passion, what you love to do, even when you don't get paid, what would motivate you? What are your interests? What are your strengths that you can give back? Like Teacher Ming, investing time, talent, and treasure in the youth camp. And then people, what are some people skills that you need to grow this year? Whether it's communication, leadership, the different soft skill. And then finally, performance. When we think about performance in the peak of this pyramid, we want it to be very specific, measurable. So we want to put some numbers that are specific. For example, what grade would you want to accomplish? How many AP classes are you going to take? How many clubs are you going to be part of? So you see example of teenagers doing these 5P. So this is a little bit more explanation, and this helps us to guide your new school year, and especially the principle that we just talked about, principle-centered leadership. So here's an example of a 9th grader. Last year, she wrote the 5P. So her purpose is to be an accomplished 9th grade, 10th grade student, to be caring and giving to their family, to have good school life balance during COVID. And now we're kind of coming out of it, so it's different. So this was the students sharing last time. And then how to grow their relationship in Christ. So that is their purpose. That's a very good purpose. And their principle is very much about family, God honoring, biblical, and positive peer influence. So that's very wise, very good principle. And their passion. So this student's mom is an HR manager. So this student did the strengths finder. So she knows her top 5 strengths listed here. And she also likes to read, write, research, and learn. So think about what your passion is. And then for people, she wants to grow in communication, which includes listening, and be proactive, which is our habit today, in reaching out to others, and be open-minded and be humble. Many of you shared these last week. And finally, in her performance, look at these numbers, be very specific. She said 5 honors courses, what letter grade, and smooth transition moving from one state to another, and 2 coping strategy for stress management. And then she wants to read at least 3 times the Bible a week, and then doing daily prayer. So this is an excellent example on performance. So I will include this in the email so you can follow and model and think about what your 5P is. And then the principle is what we're talking about, principle-centered leadership. So this is the same student. She chose to write 10 years later when she became 25 years old. What would her 5P be? So she'll be a young adult working. So I'm not going to go into detail, but this is very fascinating. And you don't have to do that for your homework. It's a bonus if you would want to. So just give you some idea on how to write your 5P. And the final example, this student did a 5P plan for her summer. And lo and behold, in an amazing way, when she finished writing this 5P and she followed step by step to work through it, her performance was accomplished. She did find the summer intern for the research on AI, deep learning that she's interested in. So I'm not going to go through it, but I'll include this in the email so you can follow as an example. So as we go into the 7 habits of highly effective team, I want you to see the big picture. The first 3 habits are actually for your internal victory, your private, just like how my 5P, the first 3 are for your internal soul searching. So we're going to start with be proactive. And then Teacher Ming and other teacher will show you, begin with the end in mind, and then put first thing first. Those are the 3 private victory. And the second, and the private victory here, as you see the book from the table of content from the book, we're going to start on the habit 1, be proactive. And then outside of the private habits and the private victory, then you move on to the public victory, which is the next 3 habits. That's think win-win, seek first to understand, which is begin with the end in mind, to know your goal, to understand people, and then to synergize. And the final habit is sharpen your saw. So we'll learn that over time. So be proactive. This cartoon is very illustrative, isn't it? Reactive is someone who just lay back and relax. It's okay to relax. It's okay to lay back. And yet, if you're not taking any action, if you lay back all the time, in Chinese, your parents probably know this term very well, 躺平, and you're just not doing anything, versus on the left, very proactive, diligent, as you are proactive coming to this youth camp on Zoom. So many of you already did a good summary between the reactive and proactive, and I'll show you an example at the end. So how do we think about proactive? If you're not proactive now, then when? So this is a good key set of summary on proactive, on this habit, and we'll go through each one by one. The first one is taking initiative. Are you someone who takes initiative to ask questions, take initiative to go a step above and beyond what your teacher, your parents may be asking? So here's a comparison of the left, someone who takes the initiative, they are can do, and the right, someone who doing minimum, or no, I cannot do it. And you can see the compare and contrast, a big difference. When you're taking the initiative, you make things happen, and you think about solution and options, and you act on it. Instead of the people who are reactive, they're no can do, they just wait for something to happen. They were watching, waiting, what's happening? Or they didn't even know what happened. Instead of the proactive people, they make things happen. And then the reactive people think about problems and limitations and barrier. Oh no, I cannot do it. They have a very fixed mindset, and they're waiting to be acted upon by people. So those are really bad examples when you are reactive and you have a fixed mindset. In comparison, we want to be proactive. We want to have a growth mindset and think about solving problems. So that's the first quality of being proactive, taking initiative. The second quality is being responsible, that you're responsible for your words, your actions, and your feelings. You're responsible for what you need to do and also how you can bless people. And later we're going to go into your emotional quotient, how you are responsible for your emotion and don't let people control you and change your emotion or your value. And the next quality is that I do not blame others for my mistakes. I remember one of our children often said, "You make me." They blame on others for causing them to make a mistake. So one of the homework this week is to think of those reactive language that we tend to blame on others. And the next quality is I can only be offended if I choose to. So No one can offend you unless you choose to be offended. In other words, you choose to decide how you feel, how you take responsibility on your emotions and your decisions. So be proactive and set boundary and not let people beat you down or beat you up, and that you choose the right actions, your right attitude, and your right mood to respond to what people do to you. So we're going to go through more examples, how to be proactive. And this week, you're going to be challenged to think what reactive things that you say versus what proactive actions that you can do. Teacher Ming, would you like to comment some here?
Yeah, I think is this a great list, okay? But take it to your daily life today. Okay, as a youth, as a teenager, the best way to observe whether you're proactive or not is, are you doing something for your own success without anybody to push you to do it? Like you want to study hard to get a good grade. You want to really understand what the teacher teach you. Okay, and then you really want to learn everything. In addition to all the school material, you actually, like you joined this camp, you wanted to learn more. And that's all be proactive. Okay, but this is very important. Another real practical example is you're taking every class. The most efficient and effective way to get good grade is be proactive and read the material before teacher even teach. You know, take 30 minutes, 1 hour, pretty quick, glance through it. Then you have a big picture of what the teacher is going to teach you. And that's proactive. Then right after the teacher teaches through the class, and you immediately work on the homework because everything is fresh. And you can be so efficient, so effective. Yes. And you can get a straight A easily. Okay, yes. This is one of the proactive example. Thank you.
Thank you, Teacher Ming. In fact, last week, once we finished the camp, within 30 minutes, we received the first homework already. Again, it's from a 6th grader. And that is so true. When you do right things in the right way, you save so much time and save so much energy, and you do it so well.
Yeah, you can still have all the fun, you know, and still it's great, you know, straight A. We really like to see everybody, you know, as a valedictorian after you graduate high school. Yeah.
So reactive is not what we want to do, because you just react without thinking and filtering and processing. We want to be proactive. And you know what? In my book of Art of AQ Leadership, it's not just proactive. We want to be predictive and preventive. That's the transformation quotient, so that you already foresee something's going to happen and predict, and you prevent. And I showed a computer here that my husband one time went to Hong Kong for 2 months, and he knows how much I use the computer. And he was predictive and preventive. He bought me another computer in case that my current computer has problem, because he's going to be away for 2 months. So he's exactly right. I really did have problem with my computer, and that prevented my problem of not having a computer to use for teaching and so forth. So that is the progression that really help us to even get better. And then we said we're responsible for our own emotion. One of the quotient in the book of Art of AQ Leadership is emotional quotient, which I know many of you heard about. Emotional quotient. The right diagram is the textbook definition, how to be aware of your emotion, to report it, motivate, and have empathy for others' emotion, and build social skill. But my definition help us to live out the proactive habit. Don't let others' words and actions degrade your value and control your response. So let you be in charge of your own emotion. So often, when people say something, do something, we get hurt and we get sad and we get depressed and distressed. You are allowing them to control your response and your emotion. So be proactive and take charge of your emotion. So think about this inner voice. saw that in the book. They talk about the inner voice. But for us as Christian, we are blessed. Who is our inner voice? Who can we listen to? Who's our inner voice? The Holy Spirit, right? And the Bible, as you read and walk with God closely, you know. So I'm going to skip this story because of time, because I want to show you some example. I'll come back to this story in the future. Yes, go ahead. Someone saying something? Okay. So as you know, when I retire, we are very thankful to have over 100 guests invited to the retirement, and I receive all these different encouragement. And I love making acrostic for coworkers' birthday and service anniversary. So I received a big surprise that all the 100 guests were invited to write acrostic using my name. So you can see the meaning of these qualities. My leader, the person next to my between me and my husband, he wrote this for me. It's really an illustration of these 8 quotients and the 8 qualities, and has a lot to do with being proactive. So this is a student who sent in the summary of what proactive means to them, that not let people's affecting our emotion. We should take charge and be proactive so that you are calm and positive. Even if we get upset, that we know to be careful, to work on the positive outcome and grow. And then proactive people would ignite actions to lead to positive outcome, whereas reactive people don't. And we focus on what we can control, that we can set boundary, and no one can control the weather, so we don't have to worry about those. So anything that we cannot control, we should let go and let God, and then have a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. So act, don't react. So this is one of your homework the students sent in. So at the end, I want to show you the homework for this week. These are pages from the book, so I'm not going to email those to you. You can take a screenshot now, if you like. That makes it easier. So here's, if I could ask a student to read this one for us. Anyone would like to read this number 2? It's one of your homework. Other than the 5P, you're going to listen to what you say this week, or think about the words. Lucas, would you like to read for us?
Me?
Okay, yeah. I see your mic turn on.
Listen carefully to your words
Number 2. Mm-hmm.
today. Count how many times you use ridiculous language such as you.
On the right, upper right. Continue.
Make me. I have to. Why? Can't they? I can't.
Yes, thank you, Lucas. So these are examples of reactive language. You make me, I have to. Why can't they? I cannot. So I won't make you count, but tell me which are the reactive language that you tend to use. So that's one of your homework questions.
That's awesome.
Another one is do something today that you have wanted to do but never dared. So think about what's something you can leave the comfort zone. And then number 4, write yourself a post-it. I will not let somebody or something decide how I'm going to feel, because you take charge and you're proactive in your own emotion. And then remind yourself. And then number 7, if you get into a fight with a parent or a friend or your sibling, be the first one to apologize. That's proactive. So that's a good example. And number 8, identify something in your circle of no control that you're always worrying about. Think about maybe it's your AP test or your SAT test or your college application, things that you cannot control. But what can you control? You can study hard, prepare your essay this summer, for example. So think about those. So these are examples that you can pick what you want to work on this week and beyond. And number 10 is use your tool of self-awareness. Listen to yourself, asking, what is my most unhealthy habits? And make up your mind to do something about it and be proactive and how you're going to change. So this is our homework. Like last week, you can reply to the email from Teacher Yan or send email to me. This is the email address, elaine@calltowork.org. And put your name, full name, state, and what grade you're entering. The more proactive you are, the sooner you send it, that you get the response from me, and that we'll get to know you. And over time, if you like to do one-on-one meeting with us, we'll be more prepared to help you and guide you. So this is the homework this week. It's not as simple as last week, and this will be in the email. And this is a baby step that you're going to take. It's not overnight. So one question is, one key learning you learned today, number one. Number two, pray and prepare this 5P. So we'll give you a pyramid. You can use the video, you can use the PowerPoint, or you can just write the 5P in the email, up to you. And the idea is planning for your new school year. What is your purpose, principle, passion, people, and performance? And I'll send you the example of what those students have done before. Question number 3 is write down the words that you usually say that are reactive. And here are the example that we just read. And the final question is, what are the 2 other proactive things that you plan to do this week? So you saw example I show you. Hopefully you took screenshot, or you look at the book and then tell us what those are. So those are the 4 homework questions this week. Thank you for your attention. See if you have any question.